Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our Get to Know Our Mindset Trainers webinar series. We've got a motto here at Exit. Maybe you've heard it. It says good agents are born, but great agents are trained. So to that end, we've developed what we have here at Exit called our Mindset Training Program, and we've got a whole host of highly skilled and expert mindset trainers that are part of that. And we're really proud of that. We've really built a nice program here where we've got some people that have been with our company for a very long time. They're dedicated to our brand. And the ultimate goal here is to build stronger, more successful real estate agents. I'm Craig Witt, your host today. I'm the CEO of Exit Realty's US division. And here at Exit, we've got something for every level of agent, whether you're brand new or wanting to build a team or you're a broker owner. We've tried to build out a great program that has somebody that can help you grow to the next level of your business. So today, we want to shine a really bright light on one of our favorites here at Exit. Angel Tucker is with us today. Angel, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with us today. Angel's been with us for a long time in this company. I'm not going to share her thunder and let her tell her story. But what I want to do is start off with question number one for you, which is, tell us a little about yourself, but mostly, how long have you been with our company? I know how long you've been here, but tell our viewers, how long have you been with our company? And I don't mean that to date you. I mean that you are a tenured, experienced, committed Exit person. So talk to us about who you are and where you come from.
Well, the good news is I started when I was 5 with Exit, and so telling how long I've been with Exit is not going to date me. So, but I am in my 24th year with Exit. I am determined to get that 25-year coveted pen that very few people have, and so I am in my 24th year with Exit.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I actually started as an agent, which is actually how I was introduced to Exit many years ago. My franchisee, Renee Stewart, we were at a Florida Association of Realtors convention together, and we were walking through the trade show, and of course Exit had a booth there. Nobody knew who Exit was at that time. And they were handing out cassette tapes. Okay, Craig, do you remember the cassette tapes? Right, so they were handing those out, and I took one and Renee took one, and I'll be honest, I never listened to mine. Renee listened to hers about 6 months after the conference, and she said to me, she says, I'm gonna have these Exit people in, and I'm like, who? And she says, that cassette tapes we got at the trade show. I said, okay, yeah. She says, so I'm gonna have them in and talk to them about the franchise. And I said, why do you want to do that? And I said, we're doing very well. We had an all-female office. It was very small. We were all very successful. Everything looked great. I was truly 100% because she was a friend of mine. I didn't pay desk fees. I didn't pay any of that. And so she says, well, I'm not going to buy a franchise. I just want to bring them in and hear their ideas, and then we'll just take what we like and we'll incorporate it into what we're doing. But I want you to sit in with me and see what ideas appeal to you. So I said, fine, I'll do that. So after I listened to the presentation, I said to her, you're going to buy this franchise, because if you don't, somebody else will. And I'll go along with the program. I will go from 100% to the 70%. I'll do it exactly, the way that the model is. And sure enough, she ended up buying the franchise. And so here we are. Fortunately at that time, this was January 1st of 2000 is when she opened the doors. So we were the Y2K. Craig, you remember the Y2K? Yeah. We were the Y2K franchise. So if we survived Y2K, we were going to be doing well. So
and that's Y and not WHY. I got it.
Exactly. For those newer generations that don't know what that means. But the good news is that at that time I was selling real estate full time. I was kind of dabbling in the disc stuff on the side, and the company was so small that everywhere Steve Morris was, we were. So, we're picking them up from the airport. We're all staying at the same hotel. We're all going to dinner together. And just sitting down with Steve and talking to him about kind of this side gig I had at the time, he said, well, I have this thing called broker training. And so I'd like you to come up and do a session, and let's just see how it goes. And of course, that was 24 years ago now. I think I've only missed 2 because I was having babies at the time. And so, yeah, it's just become part of our language, which is so exciting to me that we have the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody completely across the country and say, hey, I'm sending you a D. And that's all you have to say, Craig. And the other person knows now how to interact with that person, which creates what my goal is, which is win-win opportunities, right? Win-win opportunities. And so, if you know how to service that customer because you understand what that means, that they're a D, then it makes everybody look good, which is that win-win opportunity that we're looking for.
Okay, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So I consider you a subject matter expert. I have been on the road with you. I've had the privilege of being with most of our, if not all of our mindset trainers over the years, getting to spend more personal time. And it's just great to get to know all of you more on a personal level. But we travel around and we do events together, and I've gotten to know you really well. And I've been in many of your courses, and I've been through your sessions. And actually, when I joined Exit in 2004, I went through your course right away, and it was really enlightening to me. It was eye-opening. In fact, so much so that it helped me with my family, with my daughter. I pass it on to my daughter, and we'll get into that in a little bit with your book about 4 pals. But you consider yourself an expert personality profiler. What does that mean?
Exactly. Well, it means that I can look at people and usually within 60 seconds figure out what their dominant personality type is. So that's kind of just a different way of saying all of that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of, so maybe many of us that are on today are maybe familiar with Myers-Briggs, for example, which is something that whether you're getting ready to get married and you want to see if you're compatible, I know a lot of educators do it in the education system. But this is unique, and it's unique because you said earlier that this is a language here at Exit. It's really our culture, and it's really ingrained in who we are as a human, because when you join our company, you go through this course as a broker owner, certainly, and then we carry it out to our agent level as well. But I think that your specialty is unique because real estate is real estate. Listings, sales, the act of being a professional real estate agent is one thing, but when we as a company approach this and say, how do we make you become a better person? How do we help you communicate with your customer, with your agents, with your brokers, and even corporately? What do you think is your perspective on the biggest challenge in that space, that specialty?
So really the biggest challenge is somebody feeling like, oh, I've taken a class, so I don't need to do anymore, especially with our brokers. They come to broker training, oh yeah, I took that, I don't need to do that again, right? And so, but what they have to realize is DISC is not a class, it's a culture. And so if you really want to benefit from it, Craig, you've got to get everyone speaking it, okay? Taking a class is not, it's great, it's good information, it's very insightful, like you said. We usually have the participants have a lot of light bulb moments, where they're like, aha, that explains that. Oh yeah, now I see why that went that way. But if you have to go the next step and actually use it, and in order to do that, you have to use it, you have to be a culture, just like it is with Exit. We don't hire anybody at head office, as you know, without them doing one of our assessments. Why? Because we hire for life, okay? And so it's one example of doing things proactively instead of reactively. And so if people want to experience proactive conversations, then they have to actually take this and use it as a culture. And that's the biggest challenge is people think, oh, I've taken angels training. Oh, I know DISC. But then I ask them, what's the three basic needs of a D? And they can't tell me. Okay. And so, there's a difference between having a class and then taking it and using it as a culture.
Yeah. So what advice would you give? So I know one of the challenges in real estate, and especially it's not just unique to Exit, it's every brand, and whether you're affiliated or not, but it's hiring agents. It's attracting good talent. It's identifying if they're going to be what I would say capable to do this job, because it's not for everybody. What advice would you give for our brokers when they're recruiting, or let's just say when they're interviewing agents, about the DISC program and how they can leverage that to really ensure that they're making their best opportunity to get the best person for the job?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So they need to be utilizing our personality assessments. No one should be in your office without knowing who you've got in your office. One of the things I say, especially when you're talking about administrative and support staff, just because somebody can interview well doesn't mean that's the best person for the job, right? And so when you do assessments on people, it's kind of what I call a non-biased look at this person. In other words, who are they on paper? A lot of times it's funny how tons of times franchisees reach out to me and say, Angel, I am having so much turnover in my administrative position. What is going wrong? And the first question I ask is, are you using assessments? And guess what the answer is? No. The answer is no. Yeah, because what they're doing is they're bringing in a bunch of people. They're hiring the one that interviews the best. And that doesn't mean it's the best person for the job. They may say, oh, I need somebody that's very organized. Are you organized? Oh, yes, I'm very organized. And then you do an assessment and it says their greatest challenge is organizational skills. Now, wouldn't that have been good to know before? You spent all the time and money and effort and do things reactively versus spending a few bucks up front, which actually saves you a ton of money in the end to make sure this is the right person. So step one is to do a personality assessment, but step two is to do an interaction report, which we can do absolutely free. So if the broker wants to know, or the franchisee or the manager, whoever it is, wants to know, how is this person going to interact with me? How is this person going to interact with that agent? We can tell you that for free, Craig. All they have to do, as long as everybody's done an assessment, we can do an interaction report between any two people. It's an 11-page report that shows how that's going to go. So it literally takes 30 seconds to plug in assessment codes and you instantly have the report. And now you have the tools you need to do things proactively.
Okay, so that's a really good point, and that's kind of a great segue. So our company is unique in the sense, maybe it's not unique, but in our sense that it is. We have our corporate office, we have our regional owners that attract and sell franchises to new brokers. We have franchisees then that attract agents and get them up and running and trained, and then we have agents that work day to day with the consumer, right? So this is a what I would call some advice for our viewers today, okay? If you are determining where you fit into that, if you're an agent, if you're a broker, if you're a regional owner, and if you're the public watching this today and you're in the real estate space, you know where you fit into this. I can't think of a more important thing to do than to understand who it is that you're working with. Whether it's an agent working with a consumer so you can adjust your personality type, or if it's a broker that's trying to hire an agent. It takes such skill to hire the right person. You don't just hire someone and say, well, let's see if you're going to make it in real estate, right? Let's hope this works out. If you can do that work on the front end by utilizing your tools and your strategies to identify the right agent and then be honest with them, Angel, can you honestly tell a person you're not cut out for real estate? Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just say, and that's why I always offer, let people shadow you. People have no idea how our business works. They think they do because they watch HGTV, right? And so they think, oh, I just show them 3 houses, they pick one, this is easy money. They truly have no idea how it works. And so one of the things I always tell them is a service that you can offer to somebody who's considering getting in this industry is to have them shadow you, have them follow you around and see how this business really works, because truly they have no idea, which is why we have the tremendous turnover in real estate agents. 80% that get out within 12 months. And that's why, because they truly have no idea how the industry works. So what better service could you provide to them than to really give them a glimpse into what that's really like? But if you look at them on paper, you can tell whether they're going to be a high producer or not. Now, can everybody be in real estate? Absolutely. Will more people be more successful than others? Absolutely. And you can tell that by knowing who you have in front of you.
Yeah. Do you think human behavior has changed in your tenure here at Exit or in this space at all, teaching people's personality? And how do you adapt that to the different generations that are coming behind each one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I tell you, the generation currently doesn't think like our generation does. And so when you have a room where you have multiple generations, it's definitely a challenge, and you have to be very cognizant of that fact and make sure you're engaging every single one, not just based on their personality type, but based on the generation that they're from, right? The current generation, as you know, has the attention span of a gnat. Right? If I'm asking my kids to sit down and watch a video, oh no, that's 5 minutes long. That's way too long, right? And so you have to definitely speed up or adjust the way that you do things, but not lose the value of the content as well. And it's definitely a dance that you have to do. People don't realize what we do in front of the room as speakers, that we're having to consider all of those things when we're in front of an audience.
Yeah, that's for sure, because everyone can get offended these days, right? We don't want to do that. So what advice do you have for our agents that are out there watching this and how they can work better with their consumer, with their customer?
Oh my goodness. And this is one of the things that's in my training system that the franchisees can purchase, is interacting with personality types like your customers based on who they are. What happens is, if we don't understand the person in front of us and consciously interact with them the way they need us to, then by default, what we're doing is we're interacting with every single person the same. We're interacting with every single person the way that we would want to be interacted with. So in other words, if I have a buyer in front of me and I'm not consciously realizing, okay, this is their personality and this is what they need from me, then by default, I'm going to interact with them the way that I would if I were the buyer. What information would I want? How would I want to proceed through this process? But what if they're not like you? And that's a huge mistake that realtors make, because most realtors are D's and I personality types, but the most loyal buyers you'll ever have are S's and C's, but they don't know how to get them because they don't go through the process the same. And so D's and I's will assume that they're not serious buyers and sellers when they're in fact they're the most loyal ones you can get.
Interesting. That's interesting. All right, let's go a little deeper now. Let's get a little personal. So obviously people's home lives and their children, if they have children, and their relationships can affect their work life. So what advice do you have for all of our associates and even the public that are watching today on how they can utilize your tools, your DISC training, to help them with their home life and their relationships that can help them perform better on the job?
And I just love that we care so much about that, because the reality is, if you have a better life at home, you're going to have a better life at work. So if you're an employee or employer and you don't care about your employee's home life, that right there should tell you something, because you clearly have that disconnect, right? Because when you have a better life at home, you have a better life at work. I say it all the time. And what I love is, even though I'm mainly doing corporate trainings, is the personal things that I get, the emails I get after the fact that say, this kept my kids off of medication. This gets me emotional, right? So, wow.
Right.
This is why I fly 200,000 miles a year for this right here, Craig. It's great when it comes to corporate, but when I get these emails, I still remember years ago, this was back when we had the broker training out in the, what do you call it? The building where the building where the steakhouse is now. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. The old auditorium. Yes.
So there was a gentleman in the class. At the end of the class, if I have time, I always go around and I say, tell me what you learned. What did you get out of this? It's great feedback for me. It helps me improve for the next class. So this was one class I happened to have that opportunity. And I still remember this man stood up, and he was probably about, I'm guessing 65, 70 years old. And he's this big burly guy, and he stands up and he's in tears. And he says, I wish I would have known this when my child was young, because it would have changed my relationship with him.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that makes me do this, because I know the difference it makes in families, and I know how it can positively change those dynamics, of relationships with people. So we have all kinds of materials and resources for people to use. We have an amazing book called Different Children, Different Needs. You can't raise your kids the same. They're not the same. They have different motivators. They have different personalities. They have different natural challenges. They have different strengths, right? And so when we can understand that, we can kind of help and guide them, to be a happy, responsible adult based on who they are, right? Not who we are, not how our parents raised us. And so we have assessments. That's how we keep kids off of medication, using our personality assessments that have a section that says, this is how my child learns, right? Yeah. So now that I've snotted all over the place, anyway, as you can see, I'm a little passionate about what it is that I do, so.
Yeah, well, and we've experienced that too, and we've gotten a lot of feedback from our people, and really what you do is what I'd call a behavioral specialist, because it's really what you do, is that you figure out what helps people improve their lives and adapt better. And we feel like it has helped them with their relationships, with their partners, with their children, and that is part of the culture and the fabric of who we are as a company at Exit Realty. This is not just about transactional business. This is about making you feel welcome, making you feel like you're part of a family. We literally want to help you be a better person. And then, by the way, we're going to help you improve your real estate business too, right? That's a great side effect. So, okay, let's go on to the next one. No more personal stuff. There's too much crying. But I love it. I do love your passion. So let's talk about virtual learning. I've been in your class many times, and I have experienced the excitement of being in the room and everybody just freaking out going, oh my gosh, I'm a D, right? Or it's just, talk to us a little bit about that dynamic. Like, how do you adapt to virtual learning, or can you do what you do virtually?
I can. I definitely prefer to be in front of people, but the reality is that that's not always the case, whether it be a financial restriction, whether it be the number of people you can get in a room. If I come and do a training for 10 people, it's not going to be nearly as good as if there's 1,000 people in the room. It's just not, because you may be talking about a C and there's not even one in the room. And so, sometimes we have to go virtual, and especially during COVID and all those wonderful months that we had there, it is what it is. So it does take some adapting on my part to make sure that everyone is involved and engaged and so forth. So it's definitely can be very impactful virtually. And in fact, the training system that I have now that our brokers and owners can purchase, that they can use repeatedly, is an amazing asset to them, to get them understanding our language as a company right out of the gate, and then creating that DISC culture within their office, right? And so, yeah, it can be done both ways, but obviously always in front of the room is my preference.
Yeah, for sure. It's, I think some things can be taught online and some things just can't. But let's compare that for a minute to your experience as a real estate agent, what you see today with this. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of virtual learning and how to be a work from home realtor, because they've been around forever. It just seems to be more prevalent now. Knowing what you know about personalities and about what it takes for people to communicate, collaborate, work together, come together, how do you feel like that's affecting the real estate business now that so many people want to work remotely?
Well, and I would tell you, it's even more than that. So many people want to work with this, right? It's all, and it's amazing the generation that we have. I'm sure you were aware, my husband in the past was a ROTC instructor for San Diego State University. And so he's teaching all of these brilliant minds. I mean, these guys have a major in microbiology and a minor in physics, and they're smarter than I will ever be, but they can't have a conversation with people. It's awkward for them because everything is texting. They'll literally sit beside each other. You may have experienced this with Mason. I'm not sure if he has a phone yet, but they literally sit beside each other and text each other. And so that has really affected the way that we can interact with people. And the reality is, face-to-face is always better. Period. It just is. And so there's certain benefits that you get, especially when you understand how to read gestures and micro gestures and things like that. You can't see that kind of stuff virtually. You can't see that kind of stuff through a text. And so, I encourage people to be in front of the consumer whenever you can. And I'll tell you what that's going to do. That can be a differentiator for you. That can set you apart from people who are trying to do everything what I would call the easy way, but not necessarily the best way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because that is easy, right? And it's also a way for people to hide behind technology so that they don't have to face somebody in person, right? Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's talk. I got one more question here for you, and then we're going to wrap things up. But what's next for Angel? Where do you see this going? Like, and not just for real estate agents, our industry, but where do you see the DISC training and this behavior profiling going?
I really think what I do is more important than ever because of what you just said. All the technology, the ability that people have right now to effectively communicate. Everybody speaks, but few communicate. Okay, there's a huge difference between those two. And what I do now is more important than ever because people just don't have the ability to collaborate and connect, connect with other people based on who they are, And so, I'm taking it as big as I can. I'm in the process of working on, getting on bigger stages and, different industries. I'm going into the education system a lot lately. I just did one in San Diego. I have another one next month in Missouri. And so, taking it as big as I can, but because I can only be so many places at once, I have created the training system that's available not just to exit, but there's a version, it's a smaller version, but there's a version available to any industry out there to train their people on DISC. And guess what? It's not just about business stuff. It tells them how to be a better parent. It tells them what to expect from their child based on their personality type. Because again, when you have a better life at home, you have a better life at work. And so this is available to any company to purchase for them to be able to kind of go in and create a DISC culture within their organization as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's vital. And like I said, I'm glad that I met you when I did, because it really impacted me and my family. And I wish I would have went through it in school, because I think it probably would have helped me figure out who I was earlier. I
Yeah.
thought I knew who I was, but certainly once I learned that, I figured it out. So, well, Angel, you've impacted so many people in our company, and for that, I thank you, and I thank you for being on today. But really, you have impacted a lot of people in society too, and I think that just makes us a better country, a better continent, and a better place for everybody to hopefully get along, which is what we all are trying to achieve. But I know that our people love and respect you, and we do as well. And for you to take your time out today and talk to all of our people is really a gift for us. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Not a problem. I don't mind at all. And you had mentioned my children's books earlier. I forgot to talk about those. And I know your grandson
Yeah.
kind of grew up on those books as well. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you exposing him to that series, our Four
Yeah,
Pals.
Four Pals at the Park. We still got it on the. In fact, I have regifted that. I've bought more of them, and I've given them to some of my friends' children too. So this is the pay it forward idea that we really have learned in our culture here at Exit as to how can we take something, learn from it, then pass it on to someone else. And that's all part of what you do too. So I appreciate that as well. So folks, thank you for joining us today. I hope that you got something out of this. This is another edition of Get to Know Your Mindset Trainer. They are vital in the success of our company, and each and every one of you as our real estate professionals in this business. And we can't thank you enough for watching today. Thank you so much, and best wishes moving forward.
Take care.
Bye-bye.